What's up, guys? Caleb Giddings, also known as Mr. Revolver here, and today we're going to talk about whether or not small guns are harder to shoot than big guns, which on the surface sort of seems like a no-brainer, right? And it is. A Ruger LCR is going to be objectively harder to shoot than a larger, heavier revolver that has less recoil. But what I'm interested in is how much harder are they to shoot? To find the answer to that question, I went to the range with two different revolvers and two different types of concealment, which we'll talk about in a minute. The first revolver is my trusty Ruger LCR in 327 Federal, which I was running full power 32 Magnum loads out of. And the second revolver was my Ruger GP100 Match Champion in 357 Magnum that I was using Federal 130 grain full metal jacket. Now, what I wanted to do here was I wanted to get a side-by-side comparison of how well I can shoot these guns on a specified course of fire and remove some of the other variables from it, like reloads, for example, because we all know the LCR is going to be much, much harder to reload than the larger GP100. So what I chose was the Gabe White standards, or the technical pistol standards that I've talked about in a previous video, which you can see up here. All right, first we're going to take a look at my runs with the Ruger LCR shooting 32 Magnum. This is the 85 grain jacketed hollow point load from Federal. Dumped a headshot. Let's go take a look. So on that split bill drill, I dropped actually both the headshots, it looks like, but everything else is in there and nice and tidy. All right, you can see that my hits were pretty good on the target. Good effect on target, had a couple of headshots out, whatever, not that big a deal in the grand scheme of what we're doing. And my times were as follows, which you saw in the video. The immediate incapacitation drill, that's 2 to the head, was a 206. The failure drill was a 231. The bill drill was a 314. And the split bill drill, 4 to the body, 2 to the head, was a 351. Now, for comparison, we're going to run the same set of drills with my Ruger GP100. $297? I would have thought that would have been quicker. I must have slowed down on the heads. Oh no, I had a slow first shot, 152. Let's go show it to you. So I've got one head out and one body out. As you can see, my times with the GP100, with one exception, were all better. For the immediate incapacitation drill, they're basically the same. I had a 207 for the two headshots with the GP100, but then the failure drill was a 189, the bill drill was a 249, and the split bill drill was a 297. So we have some interesting data now as a result of that. And the first thing is the immediate incapacitation drill being almost exactly the same. And this is something that's true across the board for almost any platform I shoot, is that I'm very capable of drawing the gun in and around 2 seconds and firing 2 accurate headshots. I've practiced it a lot when I was trying to get my fast coin, so that's part of it, but also the nature of needing to see a certain amount of sight picture to get those headshots in that time sort of eliminates the advantages and disadvantages that certain platforms have. You see the disadvantages with the small revolver start to reveal themselves on longer strings of fire. And those disadvantages are the smaller grip is harder to hold on to. There is actually more recoil with a smaller revolver, even though I'm only shooting 32 magnums through it. So that doesn't really manifest itself, though, on that short string of fire because it's only 2 rounds. Now, obviously, where it manifests itself are in the longer strings of fire. So, for example, let's talk about the performance degradation that I have on the failure drill, the bill drill, and the split bill drill. On the failure drill, you're looking at 1.89 versus 231, which means I'm looking at about a 15% performance degradation going from the big gun to the small gun. On the bill drill, you're looking at a 249 versus a 314, which is about a 20% performance degradation. And on the split bill drill, we're looking at a 297 versus a 351, which again is about a 15% performance degradation. Now, I haven't repeated these time in and time out and time in and time out, but just looking at how consistently I'm looking at 15 to 20% performance degradation across the board when you get into those longer strings of fire, I'm fairly comfortable saying anecdotally, you lose about 15 to 20% of your performance when you go to a smaller platform. Here's the caveat to this. The small platform that I went to is optimally set up to be easy to shoot. The Ruger 327 Fed firing those 32 Magnum rounds is a really nice shooting gun. I have the fatter grip on it to help absorb even more of that recoil. It's got a good trigger. The sights are so-so, but they're not bad for a small shooting gun. I'm pretty sure that if I was shooting something else, like an LCR in, say, 357 Magnum and firing the same rounds out of that LCR that I was firing out of the Ruger GP100, I would see even more of a performance degradation, probably in the area of 20 to 25%. And that goes up the harder the gun gets to shoot, right? So if the Ruger 327 Fed LCR with those 32 Magnum rounds, or 32 longs even, is the optimal easy gun to shoot, how much performance degradation do you think we would get if we were shooting something with even worse sights with a harder recoiling cartridge? Again, I would say at least we'd be looking at a 25% degradation, if not an even higher, more significant one. So why does all this matter? All of this matters because I am a huge proponent of revolvers, especially these small revolvers, as carry guns. And we talk about it in the U-shaped revolver utility curve, where a highly skilled user can wring really good performance out of these weapons if they're up here on that high end of the curve. But when we're talking about highly skilled, how highly skilled are we talking here? What level of skill do you need to be to shoot a 3-second bill drill with a gun this small? And it turns out you need to be an IDPA master class shooter or something in that area. It's not, which, the bucket of IDPA master class, starts at like USPSA B class and ranges all the way up to, GMs, because IDPA doesn't have a higher ranking than that. But anyway, that's not the point. The point here is that when you're talking about these small guns, when you're talking about carrying them, we need to be realistic about what we're giving up. And we are giving up performance. But what are we giving up that performance for? Well, in this case, we're giving it up for concealability and comfort, right? With a small revolver, you can conceal that gun in places that you can't conceal any other gun. And we've talked about this before in some of the other concealed carry videos, that nothing conceals better than a small frame revolver like a J frame or an LCR. It is great. It is the gun that you take to get you out of trouble, not to go looking for trouble. There are plenty of guns that you can take if you're going looking for trouble, and most of them are, rifles and shotguns and, high-capacity semi-automatic pistols and 9mm. But the point of the small revolver is it is the gun that you carry to get you out of trouble, not to go look for trouble. And with that, with understanding what you're giving up, sometimes giving that capacity or that performance up may be worth it. For me, I find it's worth it a lot, especially dealing with my lifestyle where I have a small child and I like to be physically active outside, and I don't necessarily want to carry my Beretta APX 9mm with a 20-round spare magazine and all of that, but I want to have some gun. And that, for me, is the advantage of the small revolver as a carry gun and why I often select it preferentially over much larger, more capable guns. I know that I'm giving up 15 to 20% of pure shooting performance versus a larger revolver, and even more shooting performance versus a semi automatic pistol, but I am okay with that trade off specifically because of the benefits that I'm getting in concealment and just comfort in my everyday life. That's it for this video. I'm Caleb Giddings. Thanks very much for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, or you hit this button over here to watch one of these recommended videos, or hit this for a playlist, or to subscribe, or whatever these things do, because when I edit this, I'm never really sure what end screen I'm going to put on here. Thanks for watching.